Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to this daily recap. Uh, I'm talking about day 3 of the ATD ICE conference. And sorry it's late. Ran into tech issues. I was running out of natural light. Went to move my computer to get better light, and I accidentally turned the video off halfway done last night. So I was too whipped and didn't have the right light, and now I got too much light, and well, we'll just have to figure it out. But anyways, a recap of yesterday. Yesterday, great day, except my grumpy hip is failing me. But I hobbled through it. The day started off first thing in the morning with our keynote speaker, but it started with a warm-up, by Tony Bingham, who is the president of ATD, and just welcomed us to the conference. And he introduced Holly Ransom, who was here at San Diego last year. Did a great job just kind of tying in all the days and what the emphasis was about. But she spoke about something that was kind of important, I thought, was the importance to take time to recharge. And I'm seeing that already in my participation in this event. I've just got to kind of slow it down and take more breaks because like I said, I need a new hip, and this one is failing badly. It's now clicking every step, which is kind of annoying, but also not uncomfortable. But we recharge our phones, we recharge our computers. We have to take time to recharge ourselves. So a lot of focus on that and wellness, and also building our networks. She introduced Robert X. Fogarty, who is working on this project, right? The brain tattoo project method, and has a company called Dear World. So this was kind of cool. He does photography with messages. So I still have my message here, right? Helping others, level up, and gambate. So helping others, that stands for itself, right? One of the things that I try to do is help others. Level up, I'm always trying to either level up myself or helping others level up. And then finally, gambate is that perseverance or keep on going. And, so we were working through an exercise to kind of capture that message. And, this is something that I don't do, right? And this is another part of this conference is leaving your comfort zone, doing things that you don't do. And I would have to say the past couple of years, I've been doing a lot of that. And it's been interesting journey, right? I've learned a lot about myself, and I haven't died yet, which I think that's kind of important. Robert Fogarty, he came out, spoke about a couple things. Once again, tapping into this message, recharging your soul, which was the theme of ATD this year. And coming to New Orleans, he is not native to New Orleans, so he had moved in a long time ago, and kind of gave us 3 things to kind of focus on. 1, dance. And in this town, there is music, right? It's known for its music, but it's also known for people getting up and just dancing, right? You'll have a wedding and there'll be a party and people are dancing and the band's going through the street and there's lots of dancing. And so there's music everywhere, and it just kind of uplifting piece of the day. The other thing is this place is really friendly. So it's about acknowledging strangers and, just saying thank you. And people have been tremendously polite, tremendously open. It's been good. And then really important is reduce the speed. I knew coming down here that New Orleans, having been here last year, was a laid back town, and to reduce the speed, and so I took the train down here from Providence to New Orleans, just kind of slowing it down, easing my way into this town, and but you have no choice. The heat and the humidity can just knock you down, and so just going a little slower, right? It's good. But anyways, we did this brain tattoo method, right, where we had to come up with some things that were important to you, and the story behind it. And like I said, I was inspired enough to leave my comfort zone, going ahead and marking my body, right? I don't have any tattoos, but I marked my body, and that's something that I don't normally do. So from Robert Fogarty, we went into our main keynote, who was Matthew McConaughey, right? And he led off with the story of his first 3 words that he ever spoke on a film set, in a role, was in the movie Dazed and Confused, and we know it. All right, all right, all right. And he went in and explained how he came up with those words, because they weren't written down. He wasn't directed specifically to say those words from a script. He kind of built the inspiration through affirmations of what was happening right at that moment. And which led into his conversation about optimism, that we are generally optimistic folks, and it's a matter of our survival, right? If we dwelled on all the misery that is possible, and if you look around the world, right, there's a lot of misery going on right now, that we would be doomed as a species. But we're optimistic, right? We have short memories, and we just keep plugging on, right? This idea of gambate, to persevere, to keep on going. And cynicism, which, is basically quitting, runs counter to that. So, he's encouraging to be optimistic, to look for the next, the next day, right? And to keep on going. So that kind of resonated with me. He talked about, one thing that keeps him going is, or how to perform at a high level, is to not be embarrassed, right? Not be embarrassed by what you do. So you have to work really hard. And he told, a story about one time he didn't prepare, and he was totally embarrassed. And from there on, he made sure that he knew the playbook so well that he could then ad lib much easier. What he does, when he has all kinds of projects, directing and producing and acting, what makes him decide to take on a particular project. And one of the things that he said is it has to scare him, right? It has to scare him in the right way. It kind of excite him that, he's going into new areas, ways that he can have a great experience and, certainly feel good about the project, but that stretches him and allows him to grow. So this idea of becoming uncomfortable was important. He gave some, advice on how to direct people, right? He told one of his directors that he is tremendously easy to direct as long as you don't tell him what to do. And I think all of us like that. We're the difference between have to and want to. That's a huge difference, right? Creating the conditions where people want to do something. That's what you're trying to do. So, the most creative word, as he said, is the word yes. So, how can we weave that into, especially working with employees, giving them ownership of their part of the project. Because there's more than one way to be correct. right? It's not always your way. So your way may be a correct way, but it's not the only way. Summing up advice, right? When he gets stressed, and he kind of puts it in perspective with, he said, you're all going to die someday. So what's the big deal, right? At the end of the day, I've been in different careers already. I've retired from different careers. I've changed jobs, and at the end of the day, they're going to do something different. Somebody new is going to come in. They're going to do it different. All I can do is do the best job possible at the moment, but it doesn't matter, right? You're going to just move on. And so, just putting it in the right perspective. Talked a little bit about storytelling, right? That two factors. One, you have to be able to create a good story. Two, you have to be able to tell a good story. So your story, when you're creating it, has to be personal, right? Something that is authentic, but also translatable to somebody else, where they can see themselves in that role. But to be an entertaining storyteller is you have to believe, and enjoy the story that you're telling. So, good words, right? And then finally, pushing the finish line further out. That a lot of racers have fallen short because they start coasting just as they get to the finish line, where they still have more to go, and so getting past that. So that was the keynote. From there, we went to the expo. The expo, a lot of folks, their products are being infused with artificial intelligence. I've already had a lot of conversations about artificial intelligence, and the reality is, it's here, folks. We need to learn how to use it, and use it well. Use it in an ethical way, but we have to use it. It will help us do things quicker at a higher level, but we can't look away. And what I know coming up, newer versions of artificial intelligence, generative AI, this is going to be a bigger and bigger impact. And if your employment kind of demands that you understand this, right? Get to learn it a little bit. So hunt me out. I'll be happy to come talk to your folks. Absolutely. So the first breakout session that I went to was 6 Secrets to Consulting Success from Elaine Beach. And her photo was cool because she is, kind of propped over a stack of books that are basically up to here on her, that she had written. And that's kind of inspiring. That's just like, wow, all that amount of books. But she really talking about becoming an external consultant, success methods for doing that. She talked about why do it in the first place. The reality is a lot of companies are not investing in full-time employees, so there's a bigger gig market, and that the ability to freelancing is changing. It's kind of like in the book world, right? Traditional publishing was the only way to go, but now you're seeing indie publishers, right? Folks going it alone, being their own entrepreneurs, going out there. The same thing is happening in these other worlds, that these companies don't necessarily need a full-time, somebody developing training materials on a full-time basis, and they hire it out. And so there's opportunity to do some work, right? Basically they're looking for talented consultants, right? So she provided 6 secrets on doing this, right? The important thing is that secret number 1 is your expertise alone will not lead to success. right? You have to think as an entrepreneur. You know, marketing is part of that conversation. The next secret 2, was consultants charge too little coming out of the gate. And so she gave a recommendation how to calculate what you should be charging, per day, per project, things like that. So she made some materials available to do that. But basically, you need about 3 times, what your expected salary is, because you have to take out non-billable days, and you've got to pay for your food and healthcare and all that. So that is certainly part of the mix, right? And provided some suggestions. If you put a proposal forward at a certain amount, how to negotiate that, right? Give different options. Have the flexibility to remove things from the initial proposal. So basically, as somebody said, going from lean to dream proposals, and what you can do there. Secret number 3, your personality, not expertise, will land the most contracts, right? You have to, be able to talk to people, and they have to get to know, like, and trust you, basically. So she gave strategies for, your first meetings, how you deal with that. The key is do a lot of listening and writing, not so much talking. Number 4, growing your business doesn't mean you're hiring employees, right? So you have to understand what kind of business you want. Quite a number of folks have talked about the fact that once they started hiring employees, they started doing a different job, and not the job that they set out to do at the beginning. So, and talked about different ways of, finding clients to grow your business to the level that you wanted. So, things to do there. So, secret number 5, right? Only time to market is all the time, right? And gave a lot of different tips for, constantly talking about your business and how to get in front of people, to make yourself known. And then secret number 6 was put your clients ahead of the profits, right? That take care of your people, later they will take care of you. Take care of your clients, right? And because putting a proposal together is the same, whether it's a small company or a big company, go for the bigger company, right? The bigger bang for the buck. So she has a book, New Consultants, Quick Start Guide. Well, that's a book that I'm looking at. She has another book out there that she had just putting together, the ATD Consultants Guide, something like that. But I'll put it in an email or a blog post when I find it, right? So I think those would be some good ones. From there, I went to a session called Camouflage Content, Creating Alternate Reality Games, right? These are games that are happening in the real world, but you don't know it's a game necessarily, just the way it's built, right? So, she gave an example of a trucking company. They were having a lot of, mishaps, equipment broken down, things just not going right. And what the company ended up doing was kind of weaving in messages into their communication system, talking about this fictional person who was having issues, right? That had... And got it into where the employees, right, because the gossip mill works really well, wanted to talk about it. And so they put out messages, they put memos into their mailboxes. And so it just got a lot of talk about what was going on, what's the right way to do it. And in a short period of time, they saw their safety rate raise, and folks were doing it, doing their vehicle inspections more thorough, just everything by weaving this game in. So the concept is fascinating. We talked about what an alternate reality game was, and it's basically a mystery plot-driven game that's using multimedia, real life, in a real way. So talked about different things that should be in there, that there should be a single place, right, where all these clues or all this information comes back to, that you shouldn't use real people or, public, private, don't give out real information. Certainly false clues, weaved in red herrings, done in bite-sized bits, making it episodic, right? So you can do it a couple times, different ways. It's realistic but still fiction. And, the importance about, you're dealing with humans, so don't mess with them too much. And so then, gave us, information where, how to put one together. ChatGPT is a great tool to help you build the scenarios, build the messaging, build the clues, all that. So definitely tap into that. The last session of the day was imposter syndrome, right? And this was Betty Danowitz. She works for Ken Blanchard's company, and has a podcast out there, If You Ask Betty. So I'm going to go check it out. I have a train ride coming up, so why not? There's a project out there called the Imposter Syndrome Project, and throughout the presentation she showed clips of interviewing different people for that project. These in talent development are well-known people, and the fact is that a lot of people have imposter syndrome, right? I have it. Basically, like 70% based on research have it, and it's increased since 2020. So imposter syndrome is when you believe you're inadequate and incompetent despite the evidence that you have skills to do what you're doing, right? It is you really just don't believe in yourself. And this is important because it stops you from doing cool stuff, right? In my mind, this is what happens, right? Every time I sit down to write a book, that voice comes in. It's like, who are you? What makes you think you can write this book? Stop it. And, I have to kind of tell it. It's like, hey, this is what I'm going to do because I enjoy doing it, and we're just going to do it anyways. So absolutely something you have to get ahead of. Because this negative self-talk is preventing you from succeed, right? And your brain is cool because from the beginning of time, it has been there to keep you safe. And it's trying to protect you, but it's trying too hard. And so you have to have a balance, right? And so we talked about, different ways that imposter syndrome looks like, acts like, and, some strategies to kind of break that cycle and to, for you and for others, how to kind of keep things moving on. One was, and they passed out these little monsters, which were kind of cool. So I have it in my bag. The idea is to name that monster. What is your imposter monster? And name it, right? And be able to have a conversation with that monster and telling it to, hey, I got it under control, right? So, knowing what your monster is, knowing when it comes out, being able to recognize it, being able to have that conversation. It reminds me of John Acuff's book, Soundtracks, right? Having these conversations that you're on the wrong radio program. Basically, you're hearing songs over and over and over, convincing you, and you need to get a new playlist. Things that are able to help you control this this negative talk, right? Gave a lot of different ways for taming this imposter monster. The biggest thing is, having a group of people that you can sit down and kind of talk your projects through, talk what's going on, where they can, talk some, not sense, but, kind of explain to you what you have going on is your head's telling you something that you're obviously capable of doing, and it's getting in the way. So, being able to see that in others, right? Ways to help folks. So that was my day. I'm sorry that this came out a little late, but it's going to come out. So I am getting ready to head on over to see Daniel Pink and listen to him. So let me get this moving forward. So thank you ever so much, and we'll talk to you later today. Bye for now.